This is your WLAK Daily News Roundup for Lake Air, 107.5 FM and 1260 AM in Amory.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Marquette University plans to cut $31 million from its budget over the next 7 years. That's about 7% of its operating budget. Campus officials blame a drop in traditional student enrollment and the growing need for financial aid. They say program offerings, organizational structures, and campus facilities are all on the table. People on Badger Care Plus can get birth control pills without a prescription for the first time starting today. The contraceptives are available at Medicaid-enrolled pharmacies. Badger Care has long covered over-the-counter daily oral contraception with a prescription. The new order from Governor Evers makes O-Pill available without a prescription and with no out-of-pocket costs. 2 hospitals and several clinics in and around Eau Claire are set to close Friday. Governor Evers is calling on Republican lawmakers to release $15 million for health care in the region.
I don't know what could be more of a crisis, frankly, if they're waiting for something else. They've got one right now.
Evers and Republicans disagree whether the money should just go to emergency rooms or pay for more services. It's up to the Joint Finance Committee to release the money. Wisconsin lawmakers are scrutinizing work-from-home policies at state government agencies. The Joint Legislative Audit Committee is holding a hearing today. An audit in December shows 1 in every 4 state workers is allowed to work from home 2 to 5 days a week. There's talk of possibly selling offices that aren't being used. Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein says Democrats have abandoned their base. She says she wants to give left-of-center voters a choice in November and not play spoiler.
No, actually, we are giving people an opportunity to vote who otherwise wouldn't be coming out to vote.
And who may have otherwise voted Democrat.
Well, or who wouldn't vote at all.
Stein appeared on WISN TV's Upfront Sunday. A lot of rural communities around Wisconsin don't have tornado sirens. Local leaders are urging people to get a NOAA weather radio, download weather apps, and sign up for local mass phone notifications. Tornado season normally starts in the spring, but Wisconsin did get some tornadoes in February. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WLAK News, I'm James Kelly. A world-famous band will take their talents to Duluth this summer. According to Duluth Entertainment Convention Center officials, the Bare Naked Ladies will be performing at Symphony Hall in November with Toad the Wet Sprocket. The band has been performing for 35 years to great commercial success, with over 15 million records sold and a few Juno Awards and Grammy nominations. Tickets for the show are set to go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. with prices starting at about $40. They can be purchased online. Duluth first responders have come up with a fun way to promote blood drives in the area. According to a Northern News Now report, the Duluth Police Department, Fire Department, and Mayo Clinic Ambulance Services will be competing in the first Battle of the Badges blood drive competition. Officials see it as a way to get more residents out to donate much-needed blood and promote the relationship between the organizations in a fun way. The drive will be held on April 17th at the Mayo Clinic Ambulance Service. A Duluth man was arrested after allegedly shooting a gun through his neighbor's door. According to the Duluth Police Department, a 34-year-old man was taken into custody after allegedly firing his shotgun at his neighbor's door while trying to break into their apartment. The incident occurred last Sunday in the area of North 2nd Avenue East and East 6th Street, but wasn't reported to law enforcement until later in the week. Nobody was reported injured during the incident, and authorities have not revealed what led up to it. The Superior Public Library has announced a new service for community members in need. According to a Fox 21 report, the library will host a Community Resource Connection event twice a week for members of the public to stop by and ask questions. Residents will be able to ask about things like employment opportunities, housing, and food, and a specialist will provide those answers free of charge. The Community Resource Connection sessions will take place on Mondays from 1 to 3 and Wednesdays from 10 to noon. Spirit Mountain has officially ended its winter skiing season. According to a Northern News Now report, Spirit Mountain Recreation Area in Duluth held one last event on the final day of their winter season this Saturday, which included free events and a costume contest. Officials with Spirit Mountain said they wished for a more typical winter with more snow to make their jobs easier, but they managed to do things differently to make sure everyone who visited the area had the chance to take advantage of the mountain. Northern Wisconsin law enforcement agencies joined for active shooter training at Superior High School last week. The Superior Police Department, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Superior Fire Department, Mayo Clinic Ambulance, and local college students acting as victims took part in the training, preparing officers to respond to an active threat and for what to do after the shooting. The goal of the training was to make sure law enforcement and medical personnel know how to work in tandem during a worst-case scenario situation. A Duluth family was displaced following a kitchen fire over the weekend. According to the Duluth Fire Department, crews responded to the fire around 2:30 on Sunday afternoon. They were able to put the fire out and managed to keep it from spreading any further from the kitchen. Nobody was injured in the fire, and a dog that had been in the home alone when it started managed to escape. Officials say the fire caused an estimated $20,000 of damage at least, and the American Red Cross is assisting the family. A proposed housing development is causing tension between residents and the surrounding neighborhood. According to a Northern News Now report, some residents in the Lakeside Lester Park area of Duluth have pushed back against the Bald Eagle Estates project with complaints that it could increase traffic and change their neighborhood. Proponents of the project say there's a desperate need for more housing in Duluth. The city's planning commission is scheduled to vote on the plan in early April. And that's what you need to know. For WLAK News, I'm James Kelly.
The Brewers get past the Angels. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brewers with a 4-3 win over the Angels in spring training. Brewers manager Pat Murphy asked how their top prospect, outfielder Jackson Chourio, is doing.
He's definitely one of the guys, no question about it, but he's got a ways to go. He's really young. He's really talented. There's a lot on him, but he brings it every day. He loves baseball. He's going to figure it out.
The Journal-Sentinel reports the 20-year-old Chourio is expected to start opening day, making him the youngest Brewer ever to do so since the kid, Robin Yount, 50 years ago in 1974 at the age of 18. NBA, the Bucks host the number 1 seed in the East, the Boston Celtics, tomorrow night. Damian Lillard, what they did better on Sunday in their decisive win over Phoenix.
I thought the ball just moved well. We was able to get into the paint and get them kind of in rotation, and I think the ball just went where it was supposed to go. When that happens, you get quality shots.
Milwaukee, the number 2 seed in the East, 10 games behind Boston. NFL, former Packers linebacker Devondre Campbell posted over 20 tweets about his time in Green Bay, saying he met privately with Matt LaFleur last season to tell him what he thought was wrong with the defense. The Packers released Campbell last week. He's now with the 49ers. Those tweets have now gone viral. Yosh Nijman, no longer a Packer. The 6'7" offensive lineman lost his job at left tackle when Packers coordinator Adam Stenovich had this to say last September.
Yeah, right now he's a backup tackle for us. Football's a very competitive sport, and some guys rise to that competition and some guys don't.
Nijman has signed a 2-year deal with Carolina. College hockey, the Wisconsin Badgers women's hockey team headed back to the Frozen Four Friday night when they face Colgate, the game to be held in New Hampshire. Face off at 6:30. The Wisconsin women looking to repeat as national champions. College basketball, March Madness begins tonight with 4 games. Over 50 million Americans expected to fill out a bracket. The odds of getting them all right, 1 in 9 quintillion. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Yesterday, I mentioned a new historical fiction narrative series on Apple called Manhunt. It's officially become one of Pete's picks. Manhunt refers to the search for John Wilkes Booth in the wake of the Lincoln assassination at Ford's Theater following the Civil War. The first 2 episodes were a great weekend watch. If you like a good period piece, check it out. Remember the Brat Pack? The New York Post reports that there's a new Hulu documentary called Brats being put together by Andrew McCarthy, who is one of the main brats in said pack. McCarthy's getting the old gang back together, but one brat in particular will not appear, and that's Judd Nelson. Nelson declined the invitation, saying Andrew McCarthy is a nice guy and all, but I haven't talked to him in like 35 years. The phrase Brat Pack was coined in 1985. Its members included McCarthy, Molly Ringwald, Mayor Winningham, Emilio Estevez, and Rob Lowe. The group's name was derived from Frank Sinatra's gang called the Rat Pack, which included Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, and a whole lot more cool. It was a big weekend at the box office for sequels. Kung Fu Panda took the top slot with $30 million in its second weekend on the big screen, totaling $107 million for its first 2 weeks. Panda 4 barely nudged out Dune 2, which came in at $29 million, but easily bested Arthur the King, a new Mark Wahlberg canine drama. That's the dog, not the tooth, which came in with a disappointing $7.5 million on over 3,000 screens. Will the new Ghostbusters take the title from the Panda champ this coming weekend? Yes, Sensei. Fans of Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian, at least those who are still alive, might have to pass the hat if they want to see him in the role again. Deadline says Billy D. says he's not opposed to playing Lando again, but wants to get paid. Deadline reported that Williams says he wouldn't mind playing Calrissian again, but says Williams' attitude is pay me a lot of money and I'll sell my soul. Now that, folks, is artistic integrity. Don't you hate it when you're performing in front of a sold-out arena and you make fun of a person for not standing during the show, only to realize the person is disabled? If you can't relate, ask Madonna. She called out a sitting fan while performing at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California. The New York Post reports the 80s pop icon also took a tumble during a show in February when she fell off a chair while dancing. Not to sound ageist, but it's not totally her fault. Roadies aren't used to keeping track of bifocals or walkers. 'Tis the season. If you're a fan of the film Violent Night, Digital Spy reports the sequel, titled, you guessed it, Violent Night 2, is progressing nicely. Fans were excited when they heard news that progress was being made on the sequel until everything in Hollywood was put on hold during the actors and writers strikes last year. Violent Night told a story of a bunch of mercenaries who took hostages only to encounter an inebriated St. Nick. Collider reports that David Harbour, star of the first film, will return in part 2 as Drunk Santa. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, every night between 7 and 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly cloudy this morning, becoming partly cloudy by later this afternoon. It will be mild, but it'll also be breezy today with a high of 47. The wind northwest gusting to 25 or 30. Tonight, clear down to 14. Tomorrow, sunny, colder, 30. We are keeping an eye on the possibility of at least a little light snow by Thursday night into Friday. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
That's your WLAK Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at lakeair.radio.